Hey, 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 Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast, a time that I really am trying to build a bridge. My goal is to build a bridge for you to really find meaning in the work that you do. Because here's the thing I know God meant for us to live a life full of meaning and fulfillment, and therefore, Meaningful Work Podcast. That's where the name comes from. So, listen, the thing that I love about this conversation is this: you can have all the outline, you can have your intention, but conversations and translation in conversations can get lost. And that's really what the premise is of our conversation today. Because let's be honest, you can have a goal, you can have all the things, and still not be effective and not be working with your team in a way that they understand where you're trying to take them. And so, listen, here's a statistic for you: workplace communication often misses the mark because it lacks clarity, context, or is delivered via inappropriate channels, leading to 82% of workers struggling with effective collaboration. So you can build brands, you can lead campaigns, you can manage teams and still watch momentum stall because conversations don't land. And that's why I'm excited about today's guest. In addition, this is one of my good girlfriends, so I'm gonna try to keep my girlfriendness intact. Her name is Essence Lee Souffrant. Now, Essence is an award-winning, vibrant leader with over 15 years of experience across marketing, advertising, and sales. Now, she's worked from Digitas Boston to Sally Mae, from, I'm gonna mess up this name, Alhold, let me just say this, a global grocery store, because I'm gonna mess up the name. Let me not try to say it, to Stop and Shop. And now the Lego Group. She's launched social channels, influencer activations, branded cooking shows, and led in-house agency account teams, driving exceptional excellence for global retail campaigns. Now, if that wasn't enough, he's also the founder of True Essence Projects, a coaching and consulting firm focused on mindset and business strategy. So, what truly sets Essence apart, this is why I absolutely love her. She leads with authenticity, not ego. I'm gonna say that one more time for the people in the back. She leads with authenticity and not ego. She translates personal values into practical team norms. And she helps organizations turn communications into connection. So if you care about results and are tired of conversations that go nowhere, if you want your team guided by values and not ego, get your pen because that's where we're headed. So help me welcome Miss Essence to the conversation. Hey, girl.
Hey, 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 hey.
So
Thank you
excited.
so much.
Girl, heck, excited to have you. Listen, there's so many different ways we can go with this conversation. And yes, I messed up one of the names. Did I say Global Grocer, right? That's right. Did I say that part right in your bio?
Yes, Ahold Delhaize.
Okay, girl. She tried to tell me in the pre-show, and I was like, I couldn't remember. So, with that said, look, and I phonetically spelled it out, but I'm hooked on phonics. So, let's talk about why communication is such an issue in the workplace. Why do you think it's such an issue?
Well, I mean, Nicole, well, first I want to say thank you so much for having me on. And thank you so much. You know, I've always told you this. Thank you so much for living out your gift and your purpose because so many of us are impacted by it. So just
Mm,
thank you. But why communication is so difficult in the workplace? So, I mean, a lot of times, and the bulk of the time, is many people they don't communicate to listen, right, to what someone is trying to say. They communicate in a way that is really driven by what they want to communicate, right? They're not listening to others. They care more about what they believe to be true versus what others might have to contribute or what is truth in reality, right? So what are the objectives of what you're working on, right? A lot of people lead with self. That's one of the what I've seen, one of the issues with communication in the workplace.
Ooh, lead with self. I love that. Look, you guys know, those of you that are watching on YouTube, when you see me looking down, I'm writing. Here's my pen. I'm writing notes for myself. I love that you said lead with self. So it's this whole ego thing instead of really looking at how do I look at where everyone wants to go, right?
Right.
And why do you
Right.
think people get so caught up on ego and not really? Well, before I ask you that question, let's talk a little bit about values. I feel like so many of us don't even know what our values are. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we don't know our values?
Well, I mean, there's so many people who are lost, right? I mean, this is a faith-based show. My core values is related to my spirituality and who I am as a Christian and as a believer, right? So there's just things that I do that's consistent with God's way of living. Uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, they don't have a system, they don't have a framework. You know, the Bible is the Bible, but it's also my framework for life and how I show up, what I do, how I treat people. And even on my worst day, maybe I'm not, you know, all the way there, but that is my aim. That is my desire. That is the intention of my heart. And for a lot of people, they don't have that. They don't
Mm.
have a core value system. They're not growing up with a spiritual foundation, or maybe they grew up like that, but they don't live it for many different reasons. So in the workplace, it shows up as leading with self. It shows up as, you know, ego. I have all the answers. I'm right all of the time. I have to take up all the space on every call. Whereas for someone like me, I lead with heart. In you know, to lead with heart, that also means I walk into the room with heart, just checking in on folks. How are you doing? How's everybody? How's your weekend? You know, you look a little tense. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And there's so much that people are sitting with, right? So there's
Yeah.
been instances where my intention was to get on a call to talk about work and business, and then you find out somebody is dealing with something really, really serious, and I have said, this call can wait. Go deal with that.
Yeah.
Go deal with what you have to deal with, because I'm a leader who leads with heart, not just, you know, taking up space or getting that work done, because it'll all get done. It always gets done. But you know, the other person, someone on my team or a colleague, they might not be all right. And if they're not all right, then they need to take time, and I want to give that to them.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I've said this on another podcast, y'all. So some of you that listen to every episode, you've heard me say this, that we call ourselves human beings, but we're not. We're human doings. So if I
Yeah.
can't connect to the being in me, how am I going to connect to the being in you? Right. And so I think that's where we get lost, is that we're so focused on what do we need to do? I need to get to this ROI. I got this goal. I have this project, and this person dealing with whatever they're dealing with is messing me up on getting to the end. Instead of, if I take the time to honor what's coming up for you, if I take the time to honor, like you just said, somebody's having an emotional moment, you're going to get more work done because you honored that and took that moment than if you tried to push past it and say, I don't have time to deal with that.
Exactly. And I mean, time and time again, as an experienced leader, I've seen it happen and people appreciate it. They appreciate it. I appreciate it because I've had my own moments where, you know, I've gotten on a call and I'm dealing with life in real time, and a leader has given me grace to say, go off, go deal with that, take care of family, take care of you. And so I want to give the same back to other people. And I want to be a space where people can show up authentically, right? So, you
Yeah.
know, we that I know that's what we will be discussing as well. When you show up authentically, it creates space for other people to show up authentically, and that's, you know, really a part of this work as well.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So something you said a few minutes ago, your spirituality is your foundation. And you can listen, you can believe, you could be a Christian and still not have spirituality as your foundation. Come on, somebody. I probably stepped on somebody's toes, right? Just because you believe in God and because you go to church on Sunday does not mean spirituality is your foundation.
Right.
So, how do you, everybody's journey is different. So, I'm going to let Essence share hers, I'll share mine. And I'm sharing it in the spirit of, if you don't have this clear connection, then your foundation is almost like, what's that Bible verse? You build your house on the sand, and then and it's in the Bible, y'all. Don't ask me where it is. I know the Bible, don't know where stuff is, right? So, and if you know where it is, Essence, please, please feel free to share it. So it was a man that built a house, and he built a house on the rock. The rock stayed, right? But the man that built the house on the sand, when the winds came and everything, the sand just blew away. And I think so
Yeah.
many people don't take the time to build that foundation, a strong foundation. So what helped you kind of do that? It's like, did you always have that? Did something happen where you began to do that work that really helped you understand how to apply it to who you be at work?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in church, right? I'm a church girl, was at church every Sunday, was in Sunday school. My mom, even at one time, she was trying to bring us to BTU. What is B? I don't even know what BTU
I was
stands
thinking the
for,
name,
but
girl. I was thinking the
I
same thing.
forget, I forget what it
Bible
stands
something
for.
probably.
Bible teaching.
Bible teaching university, maybe something.
I
Who
don't
knows?
know. But I was there on Sundays, and then after a while, my mom was like, "Yeah, we're not gonna go to BTU." But I was at church on Sundays, and on this in the Sunbeam Choir, doing all of those things. So that was the foundation in which I grew up, right? Where I was building that muscle. There were seeds being planted in my spirit then, but of course, you don't really make the connection until you get into your 20s, right?
Mhm.
And then life starts to happen, and the initial thinking is to look up and say, God, I need your help, right? That's
Yeah.
when and I used to have a co-pastor, who would always say, if nothing hasn't happened to you yet, you just keep living, it will. And it did. And because it did, I was able to go to the cross, right, to lead me and guide me. So then when I think about what I've experienced in the workplace, what I've seen is that my ministry is in corporate America,
Mm.
right? I have been intentionally placed there, one, because there's nothing about my credentials that really would say that I would be where I am doing what I do, right? Coming from where I came from, which, I can't say I came from this horrible place, but just looking at where I came from, what my trajectory was, and just looking at the trajectory of others, right? Because when I meet people today, the first question is, "Oh, you must have went to that school, or you went to this school." And I'm like, "No, I'm here by the grace of God," right? Because there's a trajectory, there's a path, right? And
Yeah.
that wasn't my path, that wasn't my journey. And so because I am where I am, and I've had these divine moments where I know that it was nothing but God that put me in that place,
Yeah.
in knowing. So kind of going back to your question, I've kind of landed in this space where I know that God has put me here, and my purpose is to lead with heart, is to also be the minister where I am, right?
Mhm.
That means when there's times that are turbulent at work, it is me and the peace that lives within me that helps to calm, the wild waters, right? Like I am that calm, I am that peace.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always experienced. And I
Mhm.
see it more and more even today in corporate America. And I know that that peace is just really the God in me. And because I know that, I lean into it.
Mm. That's good. That's good. And I love that you said, your ministry isn't corporate. And I want you all to get this. If you go look up the word ministry in the dictionary, after the first one that says something about religion or something about a pastor or something, the third definition in most dictionaries will say to serve a group of people. So what people don't realize, and God gave me this revelation. I think I shared this in first season, episode 1, that he was calling me to the marketplace. I'm not meant to serve in a pulpit. Really, this podcast is an opportunity for me to be the marketplace minister that I'm called to. That's why you and I connect so well, Essence, is because we know that we're called to this place. And I told you guys I'm gonna share my story too, and how, God began to be my foundation, and it does lead into our authenticity conversation. It's for me for so long. I went to Christian school. I went to church on Sunday. I was a girl singing in the choir. I was doing all the things, and I was getting high. Let me keep it real. Hello, come on, somebody. I'm keeping it all the way real, right? Getting high, doing all the bad things, dating the drug dealers, doing all the things I had no business doing. And I think this moment, I'll never forget this moment. I was like 20, maybe 19. I don't know. So I always had the boyfriend that looked good on paper, like the captain of the basketball team. Yeah, that boyfriend. But I always had the
Yep.
boyfriend, the neighborhood, somebody, not boyfriend, but the guy I was dating on the side that was from the neighborhood.
Mhm.
And I remember this time the neighborhood drug dealer boyfriend was asked me to go to the movies. No problem. Well, we get to the movies, and y'all, this is in the either late 80s, early 90s. This is when metal detectors just started. And he asked me to put his gun in my purse. I was like, okay, no problem, right? So then we get up to the movie theater, and there's a metal detector. And he's not gonna go to jail. I will be the one that will go to jail because the gun is in my purse. And I'm
Mhm.
sharing this with you because in that moment I said, okay, Lord, if you get me through this, I'm gonna stop being this extra girl on the side. And I really realized in that moment he was allowing me to see me. And I'm gonna tell you, when I got to the front of the line, do you know I was the only person that they pushed out and told me not to go to the metal detector?
Wow.
So
Yes.
I knew in that moment, God ain't gonna save me a second time. Let me stop this hot mess. And I'm gonna tell you, in that moment is when I really began to grow my relationship. See, before then, I hadn't asked God for anything. I was too busy being a hot mess. I'm keeping it real, y'all, right? And so the more I began to grow and spend time with God, not my mother's God, not my grandmother's God, not my cousin's God, I had to get to know him for myself. In that moment, that's when I said, okay, Lord, not only am I done with that, but I need to get to know you because that was good, right? There's no way that I should have not been in jail yeah, I was over 18, so I would have been in jail. So for me, Essence, as I learned and the more I've grown with God over time, I remember a coach saying to me, I had hired a coach. I had started my business and I wanted to grow my business. And she said, how come you always have to be sister girl? And so she made me kind of start shifting who I was. And I remember, praying one night and God was like, "Mm-mm, that's who you are. I made you that way. You don't
Mhm.
need to shift." Right. And so for me, getting clear on my foundation and growing also allowed me to get to know me and begin to be unapologetically me and stop limiting who I am because somebody else doesn't get it. Why you got to be sister girl? Because that's who I am. Right. Why do you have to do this? Well, that's how I am. And if you don't like it, it's okay because I'm not for
Right.
everybody, right? And so I think that really helped me not only understand me more, but it also helped me live in my authenticity.
Mhm. Yes. And the world needs us as we are, right? The world
Yeah.
doesn't need us as a carbon copy of somebody else.
Right. So, because listen, she just said it, y'all. The world does not need you to be a carbon copy of somebody else. I said this on another podcast. I'm going to say this here because somebody said, "Ooh, that's good." Why would God make you a second rate version of somebody else? Why would he do that? Why? When you could be the
No.
first rate version of you.
Yes. Yes. Those moments when I am most myself, that's really where the unlock is, right? Because that's what people need. They need me to show up as me. They don't need me to be my coworker. They don't need me to be some guy over there. They need essence.
Yeah.
All of her glory.
Hello.
That's
And
what they
you know what's interesting about this conversation and the heart of the work, the way I love how you said I put my heart in all my work that I do, your spirituality is your foundation. And yet, why do you feel like, and tell me if you may not feel like this, that workplace seems to reward ego driven work instead of more values driven work?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. And I think this speaks to why it's important for people like me to sit in more leadership positions. Um, and figure out, what is the right path to get there
Yeah.
and don't feel like there isn't a place for me. I think sometimes the ego stuff, it sounds good, right? So people always want proximity to the thing that sounds good, and looks good. And the people that, when they take up all the space and share a voice on the meeting, some people like that.
Yeah.
And even some leaders, they're wooed by those things.
Yeah.
However, I'm a leader and I've always been a person, I speak with intention. And I never forget, I received, you get 360 feedback from people. And this was early in my advertising career. And I remember this verbatim. Someone said, she speaks with purpose and intention.
Mm.
And that's what I want to be known for. I don't need to be known as the person with tons of things to say, but when
Yeah.
I say it, it's good, it's solid, it's truth, right? That's what I care about. And to answer your question more directly, I don't know why businesses do it. I don't know why leaders do it, but I do know that people like me, people with heart, people who care about people, we can't just allow everybody else to get those senior level positions. We have to
Yeah.
go for it. We have to say that we want it,
Yeah.
right? Because in somebody else, a book author who's out right now, she actually said this, Emma, she recently said this on her book tour, that more than ever before, the world needs leaders who are
Mm.
women of color, who are women who are just going after it with good intention and good heart. And
Yeah.
you know why? It's because when we get in the room, we will bring up other women. And I do
Mm.
that on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
When we get into a room, when we have power and proximity and access to power and more influence, we're not just doing it for ourselves, but we're bringing other women along with us. We're looking at salaries to make sure that people are paid appropriately. And
Yeah.
we're not just leaving that to somebody else to get done. We're doing it. And
Yeah.
I'm saying we're doing it because I'm doing it. That's the
Right.
conversation that I'm having when I get into a room. I'm looking at numbers. I'm making sure people are getting the bonuses that they should be getting.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about women raising women, and no other way to do it is in corporate, and at the boardroom, right? In that boardroom, that's where the real power is. And so I think, it's not necessarily about what's not happening, but think about, what can I do? How can I be
Mhm.
better? Where do I need to go? That's where we need to go. And I know there's lots of discussions about what that looks like, but I think, again, it's figuring out for your lane, where
Mhm.
you're swimming, what does success look like? What does that next level look like? Right? Who do you need to talk to? What version of you do you need to become to be considered for those opportunities? And it won't look the same for everybody, and that's fine. But figuring out in your swim lane, what
Yeah.
does that elevation look like, and going after it, and don't discredit yourself, and don't think you're not worthy, because you are. If you're there, you're worthy. So
So
go
good.
for it.
So good. And as you were talking, what came to me is that scene in Black Panther. Now, you guys, and listen, if you haven't seen Black Panther, then hang up and stop listening to this and go watch it because you are so late. But anyway, so in Black Panther, the scene where King T'Challa, it's the first fight where he's fighting Jabari, the Bear King. And he falls down, and Angela Bassett yells at him, "Remember who you are." That's my horrible
Yes.
African accent. Remember who you are. And I think so many of us forget who we are, and then ego drives us, because at the end of the day, what happens is when you're in a corporation, and please, feel free to add, take away, tell me, stop. When you're in corporate, and listen, I've coached a lot of C-suite, a lot of executive level people, and you start comparing yourself to other people instead of remembering who you are. That's where ego starts to get in, because your ego is driving you, because you're in that comparison game instead of, why am I here? Like you just said, what's my goal? How can I affect change on my level? And how can I be clear about where I can bring other people up with me?
Yep.
I
That's
think,
really it. Because it's not
mhm,
about us, right?
right.
Our time on earth is not about us. It's, what can we do for other people? How can we serve other people? So
Yeah.
serving other people might be bringing their name up in a meeting so that they have access to more opportunity. It could be ensuring that they get the appropriate salary, and pushing for a salary review, right? That's what this is about in corporate. It's really figuring out, how can you serve other people? How can you help advance other people
Right.
within your reach?
How can you not make it just about you? How can you not be selfish, dare I say, right? As Michael Jackson would say, with all the LOVE in you, right? How can you make it
Yes.
about helping other people? So tell us some top mindset shifts that you teach people who struggle with this whole authenticity, even communicating authentically. What are some of the top mindset shifts that you share with people?
Yeah. So as you were talking, one thing that definitely came to mind is having an abundance mindset,
Mm,
right? And believing that there's enough for everybody. We when we get rid of the scarcity mindset and believe that there is an abundance, like, there's a whole world, right? There's a whole world. There's more than one person. Um, and going into work, or going into anything that we do with that abundance mindset, so you don't have to hold on to things or keep it
yeah.
from other people, because there's enough for all of us, because there's enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I would say that's one. I think another would be, again, your point about remembering who you are. So just knowing who you are and what you want, right? That's another reason, another way people get lost. They have no sense of what they really want. And when
Right.
I say what you want, not what your mother wants, not what your dad wants, not what your grandmother always said you should want, not what your spouse believes that you should want, not what your kids think you should want, but what do you really, really want?
Yeah.
That is a question I often ask people, and they have no idea. And what you want, it changes, right? But knowing what you want, in the moment matters.
And can
I
I
think.
just say this? So I feel like, and this is such a great place because she has two cute, beautiful babies. So I think for women, sometimes we get caught up in motherhood and caught up in taking care of other people that we forget to stop and think about what is it that we really want in any given moment.
Yes, we do. We lose sight of it. So it's so important to just take a beat and have a check. Make sure you have people around you asking the same question. What do you want? Right? What do you want? Why do you want it? And then what do you need right now? I think those are some of the questions. So as you go out into the world, you're connecting with people to know what you need because every day you're having an interaction with new people, right? And those people, I believe, are sometimes divinely sent by God to help propel you, to help drop an insight, to help drop a seed into your life. So always being clear on what you need is also really important and what you need from others. And because people will ask you, I remember I scheduled a call for two friends to connect. And at the end of the call, one person, one of the friends, she asked someone, what do you need? How can I help you? And she had nothing. She's
Mm,
like, I'm not used to people asking me that. I'm like, yeah, you should always be prepared to say what you need.
yeah. Yeah. And to add to that, I think the other piece is once you remember who you are and why you want to do what you're doing and what do you need, then the third or fourth thing from that is no is a complete sentence. If it's something someone's asked you that's not in alignment with who you are, that's not around what you need, there's plenty of times when I'm at my 9 to 5, dare I say, and listen, I never say no out loud. I then say it in a different way, like, well, make a different suggestion. Well, so and so can do that, or we can do it like this. That's me saying no without saying no, because if you say no, sometimes people have a fit. But I've realized that if I'm going to honor my human dignity and be authentic to who I am, when things are out of alignment with who I be, I ain't doing that.
Yes, that's spot on, Nicole. And I can give you a practical example, right? So I'm currently on the board of an all girls school. That perfectly aligns with who I am, right? Because my purpose in life is to advance women and girls,
Mhm.
advance the purpose of women and girls. So to be on this board of an all girls school is in perfect alignment. I believe my purpose, it also intersects with home, right? That's why I have
Mhm.
two daughters, right? Because my purpose is to align and drive and advance women and girls. So that's why I have two daughters. So that means if someone comes to me and they say, I have this really great board opportunity for, rebuilding dams in some, urban area, that doesn't really align with my purpose
Yeah.
and what God has called me to do, right? That doesn't
Yeah.
so I can say, no, that's not really something for me. But I do have a friend who cares a lot about clean water. That's their passion, right?
Right.
So it's just little things like that, knowing what to say yes to, what to say no to, what to say no to right now, because that's
Mhm.
also that, no, I don't have capacity right now, but I could in a year. So
Yeah.
let's revisit it in a year.
So good, so good. I love that. So it's really, really honoring who you are in conversation, when people ask you to do things, when you're on teams, being clear on what your giftedness is. And even when you're working in a project with other people, which you listen, I'm in 20 million organizations I failed. And even the other day, just last night, as we're recording this, in the organization that I'm in, they wanted me to be on the entertainment committee. Now I realize that I look like I'm Miss Entertainment, but I don't know a DJ, a band. That's not my giftedness to dance at the party, not to organize that part of the party, right? But I said, but I can do catering. If you want me to do food, girl, I got a whole list of catering people that I use. That would be my jam. So I had to be clear that for you to put me on that committee, I'm not going to bring anything to the table. I'm just not. Doesn't mean I can't do it, but it'd be much harder for me to do it because I'm not aligned. Again, I would dance at the party, but that's not my giftedness to have all the entertainment people. I wouldn't even know where to call, right? So
Right.
really knowing what fits and what doesn't fit and being really, really clear and not shifting just to please somebody else.
Exactly. Exactly. Because when you can't honor what they've asked you to do, that becomes a problem. So just say no, I can't support this, but I could do this.
And
It's
when
okay.
you can't honor it, and or when you do it and it doesn't feel good and you hate it and it's that's like that worst feeling when you said yes because you and I've done this, y'all, because you feel bad and you really like the person, so you're like, but I want to support him or her, and I really want to, and then you end up doing it like in the middle of the project. I'm like, oh,
Why did
why?
I sign up? Why? Why? Yes, we've all had those moments, but we grow from them, right? And it allows us, it gives us a stronger yes or a stronger no,
Yeah.
because we know without a shadow of a doubt what we should and should not be doing with our time.
Yes, yes. So good. Such a phenomenal conversation. Can't believe that this is the end. So, is there anything you didn't get to share, Essence, that you want to make sure our listeners, that you impart to our listeners?
Oh my gosh. I guess, I mean, in closing, it's, the importance of just getting clear what you have been called to do. And I know sometimes when I make statements like that, people always question, well, what does that mean? What exactly is it? It's that thing that when you wake up in the middle of the night, it is top of mind, right? As you go throughout your day, it's still top of mind. As you
Mhm.
call a girlfriend just to catch up, they're bringing it up to you. It's that thing when you're in the grocery store and somebody tells you something random, and it's that thing that you've been thinking about. It's that thing. So I just want to encourage people to just take a moment, slow down, listen to the voice of God speaking to you, because He does speak when we listen. And it does require us to just take a pause, to slow down, take a walk, to read a devotion, right? Read a scripture to hear His voice. But He is leading us, He's guiding us, He's showing us the way.
Yeah.
Trust the process, and just be open. Be open to where He's taking you, because let me tell you, when you get there, it's so good. It
Mm.
is good. It's better than good.
Well, this has been better than good. Thank you for sharing your insight, really holding a space for all of us to be authentically who we are unapologetically. And thank you for all you're doing in the marketplace to pull others behind you, girl. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you so much, Nicole. Love you, girl.
Love you too. Yay. So we'll keep going. So listen, y'all. Thank you always, I say, for joining. But here's what I'm going to ask you to do. You guys know I'm going to ask you to, number one, tell me the value. Tell me where you are. You are struggling with authenticity, or you got it on lock? And if you got it on lock, how are you standing in it and not allowing anybody to shift who you are? Number two, share this episode. Again, the reason I ask you to share every episode is because somebody in your network is struggling with communication at work. They're struggling with being who they are authentically, or dare I say, this episode could give them the permission that they need to be who God has called them to be. And by the way, those of you that are saying called, listen, and you're struggling with that, go back. I'll put it in the show notes. The first few episodes of this podcast in season one, I walk through that because, yes, all of us are called. Everybody's not called to the pulpit. Wherever God is calling you and leading you, I love that Essence gave you that charge to go and do it and be it. That is how you serve authenticity, or authentically, I should say, the best. So, with that said, y'all, thank you as always for joining this episode. I look forward to seeing you next time in our next episode. Bye, y'all.